loved his family and loved serving this state and our country. He dedicated his life to our country.
There was one question that followed Lindsey Graham for almost 50 years, and he never fully escaped it. Why did he never get married? Political rivals joked about it on stage. Reporters brought it up during a presidential debate, and Graham, a man who almost never dodged a fight on camera, always answered it the same quiet way. He wasn't hiding a scandal, he wasn't broken. The real answer was something much simpler and much heavier. It starts with a 20-year-old boy standing in a living room, both of his parents gone within 15 months of each other. It moves through 3 relationships that almost worked. And it ends with a man who spent the next 50 years keeping a promise he made to a scared 13-year-old girl, instead of building a family of his own. Then, on July 11, 2026, Graham died suddenly at 71. And in the days after, through his own memoir, his sister's memories, and decades of old interviews, the full picture finally came together. Graham grew up in a small South Carolina town where his family ran a pool hall, a liquor store, and a restaurant. Nothing glamorous, just work. Then, at 20, his mother died. 15 months later, his father died too, of a heart attack. In little over a year, Graham went from being a college kid to the only adult left in his family. His sister Darlene was just 13. He didn't hesitate, he became her legal guardian so she could keep his military benefits. One quiet decision that quietly rewrote the rest of his life. Years later, Darlene remembered that day with painful clarity, standing in the living room, terrified, right after their father died. And her brother wrapping his arms around her, promising he'd always take care of her. He kept that promise for the rest of his life. From there, his career took off fast. A psychology degree, then law school, a judge advocate officer in the Air Force stationed in Germany, a House seat in 1994, a Senate seat in 2002. Within a few years, he was one of the most recognizable Republicans in the country, an ally to 2 very different presidents, a fixture on national television. From the outside, it looked like he had everything except a wife, and that absence became a talking point people just couldn't leave alone, but almost nobody knew the real story. Because Graham did fall in love more than once. In law school, there was Debbie. In Germany, a JAG officer named Carol. Ordinary relationships for ordinary reasons that simply didn't last. Then came the one that came closest. Her name was Sylvia, a Lufthansa flight attendant. They dated for about a year, and it got serious enough that Graham actually considered proposing. For a moment, it looked like everything might change. Then reality stepped in. Sylvia's elderly mother needed care back in Vienna. And Graham, in his own words, was a South Carolina boy, said on going home. No fight, no betrayal, just 2 lives pulled in opposite directions. But that moment set a pattern. One that would repeat for the next 40 years, because as his political career accelerated, so did everything competing for his time. Campaigns, hearings, war votes, endless travel. A schedule that tests even a marriage that already exists, let alone one that hasn't started yet. In his 2015 memoir, Graham admitted it himself, in a line that read less like a politician's talking point, and more like a quiet confession. He said the right opportunity never came at the right time, or he never found time to meet the right woman, or maybe she was smart enough not to waste her time on him. It sounds like a joke. It wasn't really a joke, and through all of it, rumors followed him about his sexuality, about his private life in Washington. Graham almost never addressed any of it directly. He kept that part of himself locked away, even while the rest of his life played out on national television. Then came 2016. During his presidential run, a White House press secretary used Graham's marital status as a political jab on a debate stage in front of the country. It struck a nerve. And Graham finally said publicly what he'd clearly been thinking for years. There's nothing wrong about not being married, he said. Having a marriage and a good family and children is a blessing. But I don't think I'm a defective person by any means. It was the closest he ever came to defending, out loud, the life he'd actually built. By 2026, Graham was 71, still in the Senate, still deeply involved in foreign policy, having just returned from a trip to Ukraine days earlier. On July 11th, he collapsed at his home on Capitol Hill. Emergency crews responded to a call for cardiac arrest. His office said only that he died of a brief and sudden illness. Later reports pointed to chest pain, then cardiac arrest with a preliminary finding of a ruptured aorta. No warning. No long goodbye, just gone, and in the silence after, the truth of his personal life came fully into view. No wife, no children. His only immediate survivor was Darlene, the same girl he'd promised 50 years earlier he would always take care of. He kept that promise until the very last day. Tributes came in from across the political spectrum in the days that followed, but underneath all of it was a simpler story. A man who lost both parents before he turned 21. A man who came close to love more than once and chose duty instead every time. Lindsey Graham never had the marriage people assumed he was missing. What he had instead was a promise made by a frightened 20-year-old and kept for 50 years straight. What do you think? Was this sacrifice, or was it simply how his life unfolded? Let me know in the comments, and if stories like this move you, subscribe for more.